To call an ambulance for a mere head vomiting is overreacting. If you're so worried, why don't you home and take care of her? I mean, isn't that your job? Don't rely on me. I don't have time this. I'm leaving now. You 11 have to take the rest yourself.
While my daughter cried and crouched, my husband left the house. She had always been healthy and never suffered from serious illnesses. How was it an overreaction when such a daughter was suffering? It was clear that he was not concerned her at all. I was out working at the time, but when I heard her voice, I immediately returned home and called an ambulance myself. If I had been there for her from the beginning, she didn't need to suffer. As I held her hand, I cried from fear and blamed myself. 5 days later, when my husband Fur called me, I quietly told him,
I'm in the middle of our daughter's funeral.
I'm Stacy, 45 years old. I work part-time and try to keep the house clean and raise my daughter. I met my husband through a matchmaker. When I was single, my full-time job was dominated by females. It was difficult for me to meet some through work. I had always had a strong desire to marry and didn't want to wait until later. I decided to try a matchmaking service and was introduced to my husband, Wayne. He was a meticulous person who did very carefully. On the one hand, I was more laid back at first. I thought we were too opposite in compatibility. As we got to know more about each one, came to respect our differences. We were so in love that it was hard to believe we met through a matchmaker. I was grateful for my luck fate. When we got married, Wayne only wore during the ring exchange as he was to it. We enjoyed our honeymoon period to the fullest, and 2 years later we conceived. A healthy baby was born and we were overjoyed.
You did great, honey. We have a very pretty baby girl.
Thanks, hon. She is adorable. Let's do our best to raise her with love. 33.
He was totally head over heels for our daughter, Mia, even more than I was. He even used her birth weight for the plate number and passwords. Seeing him like that filled me with warmth of love, and I believe we continued to live happily ever after. As the months passed and around they entered high school, Wayne suddenly working overtime a lot.
I'm in charge of a new project now. I'll be home late today, so don't wait up for me. In the worst case, I have to stay overnight at the office.
I understand. It's really tough, Eve, isn't it? I'm grateful that you're working hard, but don't overdo it. I'm sure it's okay if you come home a little later. Love you.
I was proud of him for climbing the work. However, he seemed to be overworked and took a week off. I understood that he was exhausted some time alone. There were hardly any interactions between family members, which created a gloomy atmosphere in the house. Maya had always been a daddy's girl, was little.
Dad's been locked in his study all day. I understand that he's busy, but I hang out with him like we used to.
She lamented with me. I knew I had to do something for her and suggested to Wayne,
Hey, honey, why don't we go out for this coming weekend? For the first while.
I was taken aback by his unexpected,
Ugh, you've got to be kidding me, right? You know I'm exhausted. Is this harassment? Why can't you just let me relax on off?
He suddenly lashed out at me.
You don't have to get mad at me. It's not good for you to stay in your room all day long. Going out is a good way to refresh after a hard day's work, isn't it?
I tried to calm him down.
Leave me alone. You guys go ahead and do what you want. We'll just wait here.
He was adamant in his refusal. Since then, he has been picking on me with frustration and sarcasm.
I'm so envious of your freedom.
I spent more time with Mia, but she, by not getting attention from her, Faye, locked herself in her room. I felt that my family was on the verge of collapse and hoped that Once his prognosis was complete, our normal, cheerful life would return. 1 month had passed since then.
I'm going on a training trip with for 5 days starting tomorrow. 33.
I was surprised at the suddenness one news, and at the same time, I asked bothered me.
Oh, that's so sudden. Besides, it's already been a month we're assigned to your new project. Are you still doing the training?
Nothing odd about the prolonged trauma of a childhood spent in an abusive home. Keep your nose out of my business.
He kicked me to the curb. I was frustrated by his grumpiness and wondered when we could all get along. The next day, he was getting ready for the trip. He was still at home when I left for work. My daughter was off school for a sub-holiday. I thought they could spend a little time together before he left. I was hoping that they could talk about all the things that had piled up. Right after I arrived at work, I read unexpected text from Maya.
Mom, my head hurts so bad, I feel one going to crack. I feel nauseous too. I can't take anymore.
She seemed to be fine when I left her, but suddenly she fell ill. I called her in a hurry, but she wasn't picking up the phone. I called Wayne for help.
Are you still at home? Mia sounds like she's in a lot of pain.
Can you call an ambulance right away? I had lost my grandmother to a sugar hemorrhage, so I was very concerned when I started suffering from similar symptoms.
It's just a headache and vomiting. Do you think you're overreacting? If you are so worried, why don't you back and take care of her? I'm leaving soon, so you take care, rest.
His reaction was unbelievable. Despite his daughter's distress, he to leave for a trip.
Wait, what the hell? How could you not help your own daughter? She's in such trouble. Is your job that important to you?
I lashed out at him in a harsher tone usual.
I'm telling you, you're just making deal. It's raining today. She must be free. Anyway, if you came back with the problem solved. Time management is a basic rule for I can't be late for something like.
He threw all the responsibility on his work first. I felt no affection for Maya, so it was hard for me to care so much about her. I hung up the phone and made my way praying. He had already gone, and I'd found Mia unconscious in the living room. The ambulance arrived quickly and took us to the hospital. I called Wayne after the doctor explained her symptoms. He must have been busy and didn't pick calls. If I had been there for her, she would not have suffered so much. I shed tears and regretted my helplessness. 5 days later, I finally received from Wayne in the evening. The first thing that came out of his was,
You don't have to prepare my dinner tonight.
I was stunned for a moment. I had been wondering how he could see after leaving Maya in that condition. He didn't even call to find out how in those 5 days, and he sounded nothing had ever happened. I cut to the chase and told him,
I'm in the middle of cooking dinner with my daughter right now. I can't prepare anything else. Your trip is over, right? Can you come over now?
as a father, it was expected of him, his daughter's funeral. To my surprise, he kept indifferent.
Oh, I see. Well, I won't be able to. You can deal with it yourself.
He showed no sorrow whatsoever. I reached the boiling point and my exploded. I resolved to tell him everything that was on my mind when he got back home. He returned late at night.
Why didn't you call an ambulance? Do you have any idea how much she spent?
I had been waiting for this moment, immediately started attacking him.
Oh, come on. I haven't been home in a while, and you don't even welcome me back. Even if I called an ambulance, that doesn't mean she survived. Right? What's done is done. I brought you some sweets. Make your better.
I was stunned by no sign of remorse and lost all energy to argue. He seemed to take advantage of it.
Give me all the insurance money. I'm the one who has been paying for everything in regard to our daughter. You're just a part-time user with a low score, so you have no right to do that.
He grinned at me.
How can you say such a thing right after losing our precious daughter? It's not all about work. Why don't you think about your family a little?
His inhuman arrogance infuriated me. He was not intimidated by me, though.
It's your responsibility to take K-daughter's health. It's your fault for not fulfilling. It's a false accusation to say that because of me, you have been accused.
He snapped back at me. I knew that arguing with him would nowhere. I produced an image that caused a lot of stress for Maya.
You hurt her and put her under such a point of destroying her health. Don't tell me you know nothing about.
I showed it to him on Maya's phone. It was a picture of him shopping with a woman, arm in arm, like a couple. On the day he left for the trip, Mia had the opportunity to be alone with him. She showed him the image she had taken and asked him about the affair. She also recorded the conversation. He flipped out, knowing it would be a problem if I found out.
How dare you! If you tell your mother about this, sure you will regret it.
He threatened her. She told me all of this from her hospital bed. Dad's been having an affair with a woman behind our back.
It was so unbelievable, and the shock stress were too much. I started getting headaches and nausea. He used to love me and cared for me. Can't take it anymore. Mom, please, will you leave him?
I demanded a divorce in response to request. Wayne looked at me unfazed, saying enough to prove his affair.
Then, how about these?
I threw printouts of the correspondence between him and his adulteress as CC evidence.
You can't be serious. You got into my computer without my permission. I never told you my password.
His expression changed drastically, was agitated.
I took a liberty. You used Maya's birth weight as your PIN, didn't you? I thought you might have saved your password. Sure enough, I was right.
When I looked at his emails and app on the computer, I found more evidence. He lied to me and Mia that he was working, but in truth, he had almost been cohabiting with the adulteress. The training trip he said he was go with his team was just a trip with adulteress using his paid leave.
It's an invasion of privacy to go someone's computer without their permission.
He put up a desperate fight, but I relentlessly pursued him.
It's wrong to keep things hidden from family, don't you think? Oh, by the way, I also found evidence of an employee embezzling company money from your girlfriend. You can't get away with it now, can? Admit it now.
He fell to his knees in a panic as wrongdoings were exposed. I told him I was returning to my parents' house and left the house. A few days later, we filed for divorce. I was to have custody of Maya. I moved her to my parents' house, which was away from our home, and focused on getting evidence of his infidelity at home. Before he returned from his trip, I had completed the moving process as well. By the way, I lied to him about Maya's funeral. I wanted to see him way between affair. He believed that if she were gone, he wouldn't be exposed. And he could use the insurance money to pay back the company. I realized what a scumbag he was and still shudder to think about it today. I gave evidence of him swaddling company money to his HR, which led to his disciplinary dismissal. He was asked to return the exact amount he had spent. He lamented that the amount was so and that there was no way for him to one lump sum. He was so meticulous that he even wrote down the address number of his mistress in his diary. I contacted her and exposed the who. It's usually a good thing to be confident, but in his case, it completely backfired. Thus, he's been dumped by his adult son. Even his parents have cut ties with him. He's been living alone and working to pay alimony, child support, and refund his ex-company.
I'm really sorry. I only gave in to temptation.
He apologized and tried to get back with me. It's way too late, and I refuse to be subjected to this every day. Mia, who used to be a daddy's girl.
I never want to see him again.
She's been receiving the support of my parents and me. And positive advice from a friend in a similar situation. She's getting her normal self back.
Are you sure you're happy that we got divorced as you wanted?
Of course, a father is not always a nuisance. I'm very happy to realize how deeply about me.
Thank you too for being my daughter. I love you so much.
We held each other tightly in tears, realizing once again the importance of each other. We're taking the first step toward future together.